Hey everyone, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we're going to be talking about how to get your business or your brand noticed even when nobody knows who you are. Now, I know there's a lot of businesses, especially those who are just getting up and running, right? They're building up the momentum, but they've got that fearful thing of knowing or feeling like nobody knows that they exist. So, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about overcoming that more specifically? Well, I'm going to share with you 3 specific ways to be able to overcome that, but do so in a way that's always going to be congruent to your standards, always going to be congruent to your beliefs, and always going to be congruent to the way that you want to represent or even show up in a way that suits you. Because for me, that is super important, and it should be important for you too. Because know this part, right? You are more than what you see. So what that means is you have a way of being able to really relate, really connect, and really resonate with all those you are speaking to. But you can only do so if you just tap into a few things, and specifically the things I'm going to be sharing with you about later on in this video. And you can only do so in a way that allows you to literally not only get out of your own way, but do so in a way that builds up you as a service-based business owner, you as a founder, you who is working within your industry that you potentially feel that there are so many others doing the same thing as you. Well, you're going to know how to make sure that you stand up and show up above all those who are doing something similar. So, before you get stuck into this video, please make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, because folks, I am super pleased and thank you very much for the views that I do get on my videos. But I need you to do this next thing. I need you to go ahead and subscribe, because when you subscribe, I get to grow this channel, and not only do I get to grow this channel, I also get to reach out to as many other business owners, founders, service-based business owners more specifically, all those who are needing to up their brand, meaning they need to get noticed, they need to show up, but they also need to understand what branding is and is not in the first place. My channel always addresses these things, and my channel is always for those particular people. Also to help you know that, you know what, with representation and why it matters, you need to be able to show up more. So I want to help you to be able to show up more in a way that sits congruently to your standards and your beliefs, and also in a way that doesn't feel icky, that doesn't feel uncomfortable. I help you and all others to be able to understand as to how you can go ahead and do so. So, with all that in mind, folks, please make sure that you also go ahead and stick around to the very end of this video, because I've got some key things that I want to share with you that allows you to keep that momentum going. Because I'm not all about just being here on this video and you listening to this video, you taking your notes and then some. No, I want you to be able to continuously take action. So stick around to the very end, because I've got a way to be able to help you to understand how you can go ahead and do so. And folks, without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. So, as I shared with you, we are going to be talking about how to get your business or your brand noticed even when nobody knows who you are. And that typically, by the way, is a misconception that a lot of founders or service-based business owners in either the coaching or mentoring space, health and well-being space, beauty space, whatever space that you are in, that's a typical feeling that a lot of people feel, especially when they're starting out. So, if that also sounds like you, well, obviously stick around throughout this video, make your notes, make sure that you are really getting to grips with what it is that I'm sharing with you, because it's going to be able to help you to understand that, you know what, with these things in mind, this is how it suits me. Nobody else but me. So, all of the tips that I share with you on these videos and all the other videos that I have out as well, they are geared to your businesses, and you'll be able to flip it around so that it does actually make sense to you. So before I start reeling off what it is that you actually need, I want you to know this first and foremost, okay? Or even just remember these, keep these things in mind. And that's essentially the 3-7-27 rule. Now, that particular rule is an unspoken rule in branding. Now, what I actually mean by that, the 3-7-27 rule actually refers to the amount of points that people actually need in order to start building trust in getting to know you or wanting to do even more with you. So that's 3 seconds of judgment that they'll typically have before actually wanting to stop and actually understand. That's also 7 points of impressions or even touch points that people will need in order to be able to start wanting to even pay attention. So whether you're on your social media platforms, websites, in interviews, writing articles digitally as well as printed. When it comes to the interview aspect, that could either be via TV, radio, even in podcasts as well. There are so many different touch points out there. So if you can, make sure that you pick at least 7, but start with a few at the beginning and then build on it. Don't overwhelm yourself with all these touch points, by the way. And referring to the 27 element, that's the amount of interactions that people will start having with you and actually engaging with you before they actually want to do even more with you. And also bear in mind, when it does come to building that trust element, it is also about the case of remembering. People need these elements. They need those points of interactions to be able to start remembering who you are. That's why you see a lot of brands who appear a lot bigger than what they actually are, because they're actually building on their consistency. And I'm going to touch base a little bit more within this video on the idea of consistency. So with that in mind, let's just get straight into it now. So the first thing that you need to make sure that you are paying attention to is the idea of knowing that visibility actually beats perfection. Okay? So when you know and understand why visibility beats perfection, you're going to know how to make sure that you are constantly showing up as you. You're going to need your VPV tapped into this element here. So make sure that you do actually pay attention to what your VPV is. For those of you who don't know, your VPV is essentially your values, your vision, and your purpose. Use those things to be able to start formulating how it is that you actually want to be showing up, and also help you to understand what it is that you actually want to be talking about. I know with social media especially, in a lot of cases, people don't actually know where to start. And especially as a founder, as a service-based business owners, knowing that element of where to start or knowing what it is that you want to talk about, well, you use your VPV, your brand power of 3, to be able to help you to kickstart that off in the first place. Now, use your values here as well, in particular. Your values, for example, could be peace of mind. Maybe it's something that you've had within your week that have allowed you to literally gain peace of mind. And now because you've gained peace of mind, you've learned a few things, right? So use what you've learned to be able to share with your audience. Help them to understand how they can also gain peace of mind. That's the really key part to knowing why you need to understand your VPV. But more specifically, when it comes to sharing the idea of your visibility, right? Putting yourself out there even more. You do not need a trunk load of equipment for this, okay? And what I mean by that is, if you're, for instance, recording a video, you do not need a full-on studio for this. It could literally be you and your phone having a conversation about the idea of peace of mind. If you're creating a static post, for example, there are so many platforms out there that can actually help you to keep moving. There's Canva, there's InShot, there's CapCut. There are so many out there that can actually help you to just keep going. But if you do want to level up with it, well then yeah, reach out to an expert who knows these things, but they can also take that off of your hands. That's the key thing to helping to make sure that you increase your visibility. The number 2 thing that you've got to make sure that you're doing, or to know in fact, especially when it comes to getting your brand noticed. When it comes to branding in specific, you've got to make sure that you are knowing how to be consistent. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the amount of times that you show up on a platform, as much as that does help with your impressions and it does help obviously with your interactions. I'm talking specifically about the way you are showing up and being consistent with that. Now, I've actually gained awards simply because I've been consistent in the way I've showed up. So how are you making sure that you are also showing up in a way that suits you, your standards, and your beliefs? Well, you do so by way of your VPV, once again, your brand power of 3, and you do so in a way that also allows you to share your credibility. Do not think that sharing your credibility is an icky thing to do. It is not. You have to share it in order to be able to help others to understand that you are the go-to expert. You are the person who will provide that way forward, because guess what? You're an example of a way forward. So help them, meaning your audience, meaning your people, to understand why they need to pay attention to you. Well, you do that by way of sharing your credibility. Now, your credibility could be by way of your awards that you have won, by way of the appearances that you've had, or even the features that you've gained. Your credibility could also be showcased by way of all the types of people that you've helped. There are so many ways that you can go ahead and share your credibility. It could also be by way of endorsements. Get the people that you know who can speak highly of your area of expertise and more specifically of how you've actually helped them. Get them to go ahead and share it with you, as well as also include testimonials. Now, yes, there is a difference between endorsements and testimonials. Testimonials obviously are those you have actually worked with. And just to clarify, gaining testimonials actually come from those you've worked with. Gaining endorsements actually come from all those who've experienced you working with others, but they're coming from a professional stance. That's the difference. But use the two to be able to talk you up, to be able to share quotes from, to be able to make sure that you are literally boosting what it is that you do and why it is that you do it, so that others can now see and experience it from any touch points that you're having. So use those things to your advantage. Do not shy away from them. I cannot stress to you enough how many times I've seen a founder or even a service-based business owner really just shy away from an opportunity that could have actually just nudged their content just that little bit further. And I get it. If you're starting out, that's fine. Just getting content out there is a bonus in itself. But now let's start leveling it up, okay? Let's start leveling up in a way that allows you to share your credibility, that allows to share your experience, but doing so in a way that now also comes from a thought leadership point of view. When you use that thought leadership point of view, you're sharing your credibility. You're sharing the reason why you not only went on your own experience, but what it is that you learned from that point, bringing your expertise into place. And now how it's also helped you and your clients to be able to take that step forward. That thought leadership element is something that a lot of founders and service-based business owners tend to miss out on. So let's actually talk about this third thing now, okay? And it's something that a lot of people would think that, no, I need to do more of this other thing first before that thing shows up. But we've actually got to reverse a few things around. And I'm talking about the idea of awareness and how it actually trumps sales or even beats sales. So meaning that if you are not building on your awareness, if you are not building on your visibility, well then how can your sales actually increase? And naturally, when that volume increases, so does your sales. But obviously, that then taps into the right offer. It taps into the right type of message that you are also sharing with your audience. But it has to resonate, it has to connect, and it has to allow your audience in the first place to move. Because once again, you are an example of a way forward. I cannot stress to you enough. The testimonials or endorsements that you're sharing, the credibility that you're also sharing from a thought leadership point of view, all these things have a big role to play into the awareness that you're building so that the sales can then happen. But you've got to focus on this in order for the sales element to become a thing properly for you in the first place. So with all these things in mind, let's just do a little recap, okay? So we've got the understanding of visibility that actually beats perfection. Then we've got the idea of consistency and how it builds recognition. And then finally is the idea of awareness and how that actually trumps or even beats the idea of sales. So with all those three things in mind, okay, yes, obviously your brand power of 3 runs throughout every single one of those things. But also, you've got to make sure that you're addressing or putting yourself in the front of the right people in the first place. And with that in mind, I'm actually pulling together a whole new branding audit. It actually will be launched pretty soon. So with that in mind, one of the questions that I'm actually asking people is the idea of, do the right people or can the right people find you? Because if they can't, well then you can't build on the impressions of who you are. You cannot build on your interactions. You cannot build on the awareness element or your visibility in order to increase your sales, in order to get the results that you're looking for, in order to get your brand noticed. You've got to make sure that with all those things in mind, all of what I've just shared with you, you're using these things to your advantage so that the right people can actually find you. Also so that you can actually make sure that your brand and your business gets noticed and you stop feeling that nobody knows who you are. So I'm going to leave it there. I really hope that this video has helped you. Please make sure that you go ahead and either watch this back, but make sure that you also share it with other like-minded founders or service-based business owners in your space so that they can also get to grips with how branding can actually help to make sure that they are pushing themselves or putting themselves out there in a way that allows them to show up as them, build on their awareness and their visibility so that they can start getting the results that they are actually also looking for, and also so that they stop feeling like nobody knows who they are. And in order to help you, especially with understanding what your VPV is, your brand power of 3, go ahead and click on the first link in the description box below this video. When you do so, you'll be taken through to, yes, just a few questions, but I'm going to need them to be able to send this information to you. This information is essentially like a checklist that allows you to go ahead and understand what your VPV should be for you. That's your brand power of 3. Your brand power of 3 is essentially what makes your brand stand true to you, stand true to your standards and your beliefs, but also helps to build that visibility and your awareness in a way that allows and makes sense to who it is that you are, so that others can now understand that. This checklist will also help you to understand who your people should be, so who the right people are, how to go ahead and make sure that you are connecting with them. And this pack will also give you insights on promotion, as well as understanding what it is to position yourself in a way that is congruent to, once again, your standards and your beliefs. So make sure you go ahead and click on the link that's underneath this particular video. Subscribe to this channel, and folks, I will see you on the other side.